Welcome everyone to my YouTube channel. I am Coach Regina and I am back again with another video week, you guys. Today I'm going to jump right in and talk to you guys about triggers. As you all know, that's trending right now is the Will Smith slapping Chris Rock situation that occurred here recently. I want to talk to you about how triggers affect us. So, I think it suffices to say that everyone agrees with me that that would have been, in fact, a trigger, something that was rather traumatic, where a person felt like they were at a loss, a space, a time. I mean, the slap was rather loud. Anyone who was in the room heard it. I mean, it was almost amplified, if you will. So, understanding what's a normal trigger and what's not a normal trigger. It's normal to feel upset or extremely uncomfortable when we encounter difficult content, a situation that kind of muffles us, if you will. Having these strong reactions is normal to those type of triggers, and learning how to regulate them is a part of having emotional well-being or emotional development, if you will. This channel is all about mind wellness. So whenever I come to you guys, it's going to be real uncut footage that you can pretty much go and watch over and over again to be able to understand how you adapt in life to everyday situations that tend to affect us. So again, we talk about triggers. I know I've talked about dealing with your emotional well-being. We talked about being triggered before in other videos and things of that nature. But in this instance, I thought that it would be rather um, timely, if you will, to kind of jump into this regarding trauma associated with different types of triggers. So, when you're experiencing something that causes you to feel uneasy, when I saw the video with Will Smith and Chris Rock, I have to say that that would have been considered rather traumatic. I have the utmost respect for Chris Rock and how he held his composure rather than stooping down to the level of Will Smith. I consider that to be idiotic in a sense, and I say that because he initially laughed until he felt the energy of his spouse. You can see her demeanor change, and instantaneously he reacts. We talked about in past videos, we talked about being in proximity of people and feeling their energy. That is one of the things that I have talked to you about before. He felt her energy, that level of discomfort coming from his wife, and in response to it, he reacted. So, how does that associate with triggers? One, he was triggered. Two, Chris Rock was also triggered. So, you have a situation where these two individuals, both triggered, both act completely different. Literally. Whenever you're experiencing a sense of loss of time, your emotions can be amplified, completely muffled, or sometimes seemingly unrelated to the situation. In that instance, that reaction was actually rather emotionally mature in relation to that particular situation. That's how we deal with mind wellness. When you're developing mind wellness and someone attacks you in such a manner that causes a sense of uh, jolt to your sense of well-being, triggers are likely to occur. It is stated from research that you can hear something like an upsetting topic, like I mentioned, stuff like that is rather normal. But when someone triggers you and puts you in a uncomfortable position, that's more like putting you down a trap door, where you're putting yourself in a situation where you can either fight or flight. And in all due respect, he had that ability at that point to fight or flight, and he chose uh, the former. When you consider situations that are horrifying to us, our reactions are will ultimately determine just how healthy we are and our mental stability. Being able to normalize a situation rather than getting upset is basically how you learn how to deal with situations that try to steal you away from your humanity. It's so easy to react to situations in our life, experiencing rejection, uncomfortable topics, being cut off on the freeway, like I mentioned in my other video. Dealing with any type of semantics can literally trigger something in your life that can cause you to become out of touch with mental context. When we're confused, sometimes in life, situations bring us to a sense of confusion. I would say that this is my second point because when I'm triggered, it has to be in relation to something very specific. Generally, if I'm practicing mindfulness, I can kind of blow off something that makes me feel uncomfortable or anything of that sort. Sometimes when a thing takes you back to something familiar, that's another area that is very common with respect to triggers. Someone causing you a sense of emotional discomfort. You can start to feel an uneasiness within yourself to know at that point something's off. Something is definitely off. At that time, the individual does not know that they are experiencing a trigger. They know something's off, but they're not conscientiously saying, I'm being triggered. When we're in our environment and things that are around us, whether it's our relationship dynamics, whether it's our job, our children, or everyday norms that kind of get us ruffled up, if you will. Whenever these type of things occur, again, you're not privy to being able to notice that it's an actual trigger. At that time, you just know that this situation is making me feel uncomfortable, or I don't like this person's actions, or whatever the case may be. Not You have to learn to be mindful because not all the time people are going to be conscientiously aware of their actions. With respect to the situation with Will Smith and Chris Rock, I would actually say he was aware of his actions. I would say that he had enough time to think to be able to determine what his next move was going to be. In other words, rather than taking his trigger out on Chris Rock, it could have been a situation where he analyzed it that made me feel uncomfortable, like I just mentioned, making a mental note that I'm going to deal with this afterwards by pulling the individual to the side. But what happens is when that ego kicks in and that need to feel something, superiority in that relation, he needed to make her feel secure as his spouse, if you will. In that instance, you're not thinking. But I do believe that in this instance, this individual, he thought enough. He had enough time to think about his actions, and in respect of that, he made his ultimate choice. So much is so that he decided to apologize thereafter to everyone except for Chris Rock. Triggers are unique to each individual. People who have wealth, prestige, and are more affluent, when they experience triggers, they seem to go into what's called a pouty sense of mentality, where they feel obligated or the word I want to use is they feel that they're warranted to do the things that they do. And in reality, they don't care who's at the butt end of the experience. They're doing it, doesn't matter, and they'll feel the consequences thereafter. When we talk about mind wellness, it's very, 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 very um I want to say people who battle mental illnesses or things of that nature tend to be more open rather than people who actually battle, yet they're not ready to acknowledge it. You can look at their behavior, whether it's celebrities, whether it's people that, like I mentioned, that are affluent or wealthy. Many of these people are battling their own mental health issues, but because no one has brought it to light, or in many instances, they have been called out. I mean, there are so many celebrities out there that have been brought out on the forefront of battling mental health issues and just kind of candidly go about life, if you will. Experiencing traumatic situations with respect of a traumatic trigger is basically how we learn to cope with everyday life. As you mature, grow, and evolve, you learn your possible triggers and how to be able to associate them with growing and becoming mentally stable. Learning how to respond rather than react, like in the instance where the gentleman did on that live show there, that was it. That's what you call a reaction. Is learning to respond rather than react is a sign of mental maturity. When you talk about people that are more affluent, more wealthy, it doesn't matter for them. It's almost kind of as though they get a card in some sense to be able to behave in that manner. Here you go. Chris Rock now has a traumatic situation that's going to haunt him for life. No matter where he goes, he'll be known for being slapped by Will Smith. That's traumatizing to someone. That's traumatizing to someone. I don't respect him as a human being. I believe that Will Smith operated in a very childlike and naive manner. I believe that Chris Rock handled it to the best of his ability. I wholeheartedly commend him for how he stood up. I'm a different breed of people. Society looks at things in a different way. Where you come from in the hood or different environments, they consider you a tough person when you lash out at someone or become dogmatic and hurt them in the same manner in which they hurt you. In this instance, he took the bigger road by gaining his composure, making light of the situation in a joking manner, if you will, and still being able to maintain his level of professionalism, even though he's a comedian. Even though he's a comedian. My final point is when we talk about mental health on a cultural level, African Americans versus other ethnicities are known for being able to take our triggers to 10 and not being able to come back from that. It's almost like a stereotype, if you will. If you see an African American out and they're behaving in a manner unbecomingly, they associate it with animals, animalistic, if you will. Um, I would honestly say, as you're growing and you're evolving as a person, learn to understand what your triggers are. Learning to differentiate something that causes you emotional discomfort rather than something that is more a traumatic trigger, like I mentioned in the situation that was discussed. Everyone has times where they feel anxious, uneasy, or unsettling about situations that occur in their life. Knowing how to calm yourself, come back to a place of sanctity is important for being able to develop emotional and mental maturity as you grow and evolve as a person that has great sense of mind wellness. Guys, this has been phenomenal. I want to let you know that I'll continue to be giving you guys 15 minutes or so of mind wellness tips on how to bring yourself into a state of balance, learning how to be able to discern when you're experiencing a sense of emotional uh, uncomfort, if you will, or whatever the case may be. Understand your familiar surroundings when you feel uncomfortable around certain people, learning how to respond rather than react, and lastly, being able to analyze the situation and what is being asked of you. Is this situation putting you in a sense of discomfort, or is this situation setting you up for a traumatic trap where it breaks you down to such a degree that you've responded or reacted, in a way that you can't come back from? That's the situation that I saw when I watched that video. Once he reacted in that manner, he reacted into such a degree that he couldn't come back from that. Here you go, the tears. Here you go with all of the extra, if you will, because after all, he's Will Smith. Thank you guys for watching. I'm Coach Regina. Again, watch my next video. We'll be back to see you soon. Take care.